Hey Roosters, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be going over the latest updates to my homemade trading card game. Currently going by the name of Helix Arena, but you know how names of games can change from iteration to iteration. In the last video, we did small updates to the card frames, added small new mechanics, and we're looking pretty good for the game going forward. But obviously, off camera, I haven't just been doing nothing and lazing about. I've been playtesting, trying out new rules. And one thing that really stuck out to me is the fact that the combat system is really lacking. Not only in originality, but also in depth and fun. In a game like this, where fighting is the main mechanic, I think combat should be the funnest thing to do, and you should be able to have some sort of enjoyment in the combat system. And I wasn't feeling it the way it was then. I liked a lot of the ideas that were going to this game, and maybe with a different set of rules going into this. I guess I can call it a challenge at this point, since I'm challenging myself to finishing this. This challenge, I think that might have worked, but for the sake of this card game, I wanted to change the combat system quite a bit. And when you start changing the core thing that the card game is based around, you best believe other things start to change with it. So the rules on how to win has changed. That was one of the first things I wanted to change when I changed the combat system. I felt the way it was before, which was simply dealing 4 damage cards to your opponent, was a fine solution, but I wanted it to be a little different. So I chose to go with life decking, obviously. Now, I know what you're thinking. Isn't life decking worse than the way you had it before? Isn't that going backwards? Yeah, sort of. So, in this game, I'm using life decking, but I am using a couple other mechanics that no other life decking game I've ever seen is used to make life decking, in an attempt to make life decking, a more interesting and fun mechanic to work around for both players, for all players, really. So, obviously, as you can tell, there's still the same 4 main card types, but each of their roles have been changed only a little bit from what they were before. One of the biggest changes to this competition came from the idea of adding secondary abilities to cards. So in the last video I started talking about, or previous videos, I talked about how both sprites and actions being in the deck made it really hard to play the game because you could just brick. You could draw your sprites, which were kind of like your upgrades, and you didn't have enough actions. Or you draw too many actions, you couldn't upgrade with enough sprites. So you know what happens when a game has the ability to brick? First thing I did, I tried to add secondary abilities to all cards so that every card would have 2 purposes. So it means if you theoretically bricked, every card could still work a certain purpose. But when I was thinking about it, I was watching a bunch of videos about Magic the Gathering and how people say that lands shouldn't be in the deck, yada yada yada. So what did I do? I removed the lands, quote unquote, from the deck. Sprites are now no longer in your deck. This is the old field. This is a new field. They have their own separate sprite zone. This is sort of like an area where all your sprites start the game, and you flip them up turn after turn and gain access to new abilities and new resources, essentially, until you max out. So the way the game works now, you have one Helix card. Let's go back to the card types real quick. You have one Helix card, your main card. He's your leader, your commander. You build your deck around this guy. He will have a bunch of different numbers on him, and he'll have certain types of sprites he can bring to the game. You get to bring 4 sprites to the game, and every turn you flip up a new sprite, and you use them to pay for costs. Action cards are the sole type of cards that are in your deck now. Shuffle that up, you battle with them things. Then you have your regulator card, which is a card that is going to give you access to a secondary ability if you're able to regulate your 2 sources, they're called now. Before, I had a big problem with the name for these cards. I went back and forth between calling them light and dark. I tried to go lean in more with the more robotic aspect of the card game by calling them heat and coolant. But now I'm calling them burst and bolster. Both of them signifying what they do for you now. Burst allow you to draw cards and maybe make more explosive plays, whereas bolster will allow you to gain more and more materials, which are like a secondary resource to maybe play the long game and ending up edging out the win over your opponent. As you can see, I created 2 new symbols for both of them, and I completely redesigned the card frame for the regulators to represent the more black and white monotone design I'm going for the new 2 resource symbols. Before, it was a lot more colorful, but it works the exact same way. If you have 2 more bolt bursts and you have bolster, then you'll switch and you'll lose access to that ability that you gain when it's sideways, and you gain access to these stat changes, which will usually make all your attacks -1 power, no matter whether you boost or not. But if you do boost, you'll gain a defense buff, and that's on bolster. And then obviously burst is the opposite. All your attacks gain, all your cards, attacks and defenses get -1 power. But if you happen to boost, you gain +2 power off that boost. So you get a huge drawback for a possible benefit to you. What else is there to say? Combat. Combat's completely different now. So combat used to use focus primarily on your Helix, your Gladiator was called, your 2 sprites. Well, now combat is focused on your 3 shield zones you have. Your goal is to destroy your opponent's shields, and that's gonna get you a lot closer to winning the game. You don't attack your opponent's deck in this game, despite decking out being or life decking being the main way the game is played. But you attack your shield, and that'll come into play later. So what happens is you play an attack card, paying its cost. Then your opponent will gain there. That's an action. This game takes place with an action sort of system. You go back and forth taking actions. So you can make an attack action. Your opponent can defend if they want. Then you can boost, which is exhausting, turning them sideways, and then that signifies that they're now going to go to your regulator zone, as we talked about earlier. Every card has a different boost type under its cost, so that'll tell you whether or not it's going to boost for bolster or boost for burst. Then your opponent can choose to boost, and you sort of go back and forth like this until every player's pass. So you make a bunch of different attacks. Your opponent can defend. Your opponent can make attacks. You can defend, and then you resolve the cards. Shield cards are cards from the top of your deck. So when you're resolving a combat, the combat phase, you go through each fight one by one, each shield card, flipping a face up, taking a look at its shield value at the bottom of the card, adding it to the defender's defense if they played a defense card, and comparing it to the attack number. If the attack number is equal to or greater than, the shield is exhausted, and in this case, when both players blocked and defended, the defender had a much higher defense than the attacker's attack, and when that happens, the shield card gets sent and shuffled back into the deck. So that's really important. But obviously, if your opponent had a lower defense total, so they didn't play shield card at all, a block card, or a defense card at all, and their shield value is 2, my attack value is 3, the shield card gets into the exhaust. The difference between the discard pile and the exhaust is the cards in the exhaust can never come back. Generally, card in the discard pile can, and that's the big difference. Speaking of cards coming back from the discard pile, right now the way you get cards back from the discard pile is using your Helix or your Gladiator. On the side of the Gladiator, they have these green numbers. That is your stamina. You spend stamina cards from under your Gladiator to take cards from your discard pile and shuffle it back into your deck. And every card on the bottom of it, as you look at this shield card over here, has, there's the blue number, which is shield card number, and then there's the green number, which is recovery cost. So you can recover cards equal to the power level, your stamina level, and you can shuffle that many cards back into your deck. So for example, for your very first recovery as King Tusk, you can recover 5 recovery points worth of cards. So that can be 2 2s and a 1, a 3 and a 2, 5 1s, and of course any zeros that might be in your discard pile. All can be shuffled back into your deck and form a new deck. But that will cost a stamina card. The next time you do it, you can only get 4 points worth of cards. 2 4s, 4 1s, a 3 and a 1, and so on and so forth. The idea is that as the game goes on, and you keep recovering and recovering, eventually you won't be able to anymore. And as you do it also, your deck will become more condensed and more full of weaker and weaker cards, because every time you recover, you'll only recover weaker and weaker cards each time. Sprites, the way they work now, like I said, you start with 4 in play, and every turn you flip out 1. On the side, you can see they have not a stamina, an action point generating value there. That's how many resources they tap to generate. Depending on their level, it can change. So for example, right now, King Tusk is able to get a level 2 Apex Sprite, and while this Sprite particularly is at level 2, it only produces 1 resource, but it gains access to a stronger ability. And so that's sort of the idea that comes into play. You can bring in different sprites will become stronger and weaker depending on what Gladiator you're using them with. And of course, they exhaust to generate the resources of their corresponding level. To end off this video, I just want to talk about the plan. The plan's a concept I'm introducing now that I got from a different video series I watched that you guys probably all know about. But the idea is that I wanted to just lay out for you guys, more importantly than for me, how this game is developing. And I want to show you guys what's going where, how far along I'm in this and that. So right now, the plan comes in 3 phases. Phase 1, we're currently in, is designing the game. Just create the core rules. Once that's done, we can move on to the more important stuff like creating art, assets, and playtesting more thoroughly. Right now, I'm just trying to get the game flow to be fun and enjoyable. And I think I've pretty much done it with this latest iteration, which I will cover more in my next video, which will be all about the combat system and how it works, exhausting cards, discarding cards, recovering cards, and all that stuff will be covered in the next video. So you guys will just don't miss it. I don't know what else to say. We're going to get into nitty gritty. We're fixing the gameplay and we're explaining how it works. That being said, before we get out of here, let's just take a look at the evolution of the card frames one more time. Obviously, it hasn't changed much from version 2 to version 5 to version 6. And hopefully it doesn't change ever again, because I'm really liking this version of the game, and I hope I don't become disillusioned and think that for some reason I need to change it and have to start all from the beginning. That being said, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Hope you guys come back for future videos. I will be continuing this game. I haven't forgotten about it. I'm still going to finish it. It's going to get done. And the farther and farther I go along, the more and more I'm saying to myself, you know what? Even if you're not that happy with it, just put it out there. Because maybe somebody is. Maybe people find more benefit in it than you did at first. And they'll be able to find a home with other people that you weren't able to give it. That you didn't think it have, rather. And now it does. Anyway, that's me all for today's video. Come back for more on my journey in making my own homemade trading card game.
Well, that's going to be all for now, but if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys go ahead and watch some of our other videos that we've made on this channel. Also, give this video a like if you thoroughly enjoyed it. And of course, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our future content. And I hope to see you guys back at the Roost.